What's up, folks? Hope everybody is doing well out there. This is Curtis Wilkerson, joined by my guy, Andrew Ellis, and welcome in to the Natty State Six Pack. It's a cool name, guys, but what the heck does that mean? You might be wondering. Listen, make no mistake, we're an Arkansas-driven bunch, and we know that many of you out there, things kind of revolve around the Razorbacks for you, right? But we also know, it's a big world out there, with a lot of things going on sometimes, and maybe after the Hoop Hogs get smacked around by South Carolina at home, you might want to get caught up on some other things going on around the world. So today we are going to kind of whip around the weekend and hit you with some quick hits and a six-pack of things that have stood out to us. That's a half dozen for those counting at home. I think, although it's not necessarily the case for today's show, this doesn't always have to be a sports-driven thing. It can be trending topics. It can be food. It can be whatever. But we want to keep it fresh and keep it fun. So that's kind of where we're at. Maybe you'll learn something, maybe you'll get a laugh or two. And hey, if you feel compelled to start sending us some topics, some crazy stuff that you see out there, please do that because we'd be happy to discuss it. Andrew, my man, how we doing, brother?
Well, realistically, we're not doing great. It was a little bit of a rough weekend. We'll get into why it was a little bit of a rough weekend, but big picture, we're doing well. We're excited about this new venture we've got going on. We're excited for this show. This is something Curtis and I've kind of always talked about wanting to do, is just have a show where we are able to show our expertise in every field. Because me and Curtis, we think very highly of ourselves.
Well,
we consider
well-rounded individuals.
Well-rounded individuals. We consider ourselves to be experts in many fields. So we figured, why would we limit, with this giant brain that we have, why would we limit it to just Arkansas topics? But in all seriousness, I just wanted to make it clear, though, nothing is off limits, So if you're thinking, hey, I'd love to hear what these guys have to say about XYZ, we might talk about XYZ. So I just want, we're kind of sending that out there, that message out there that, hey, that's what we're going to do on the show. It could be as simple as viral videos we see on the internet, funny things we see. We're going to talk about some topics here and there, but today we're going to be talking about mostly our gambling losses, but there's a lot going on. That just happens to be what we did this weekend. Who knows what we'll do next weekend or the weekend after that? Who knows what y'all will be doing, but we're hoping you'll learn a little bit. You'll have some fun with us, and that's what we're here to do. And we figured we had to make it clear, so we named it Six Pack, just so we're cool and we're gonna have fun on the show. That was kind of there we go, and we got 6 topics.
Yeah, 100% right. And yes, please, like, if you see anything crazy out there, you see the Twitter @, the handles, okay, right underneath, or X, if you will, slide in those DMs, send some stuff to us. Don't get too weird now, because some of you get a little bit crazy out there. But if you see something that you think would be interesting, you want us to talk about it, then throw it in to the DMs, and we'll make sure that we get to it. But let's get started, man. The first one, and listen, Andrew, I'm teeing you up for this, brother, because I know that this is your wheelhouse, and we sat together last night. Boy, oh boy, UFC 297 was in Toronto. Oh, Canada.
Canada is right.
They had a rough one, brother. Fill the people in on why we're both broke and what the hell was going on in Toronto.
So Curtis and I we are UFC guys. In the last few years, we've really kind of ramped up our fandom and obsession with this unique organization and this fascinating sport that is mixed martial arts. Well, the UFC's got a lot of fun stuff going on in the UFC world. Tons of intriguing storylines to follow. This weekend, they kicked off their year, UFC 297 in Toronto, Canada. For those of you who are fans of our Natty State Sports Gambling show that we aired on, I believe that was Thursday we aired that?
Yeah, that sounds right.
Something like that.
Thursday,
anyways,
Friday, I don't know.
You probably heard me come on this very microphone here and tell you that there was going to be 3 Canadians that would win. I was incorrect. There were tons of Canadians on the card, and only 2 of them won. Both of them were women. The Canadian women were 2-0. Shout out to Jasmine Jazz Divisius. She took care of her business, her leg of the parlay. Canadian men 0-6 on the card in Toronto. Curtis, we have to start, and we might. We'll really talk about some more things, but Mike Malott is our first enemy of Natty State Sports. He is our first enemy of the Six Pack. He's our first enemy of life, mortal enemy might even be. Again, I came right here on this very program and hyped him up, him and Trevin Brazil, and they both let me down this weekend.
Ain't that the truth?
Listen. You can Google it on, look it up on Twitter. It was pay-per-view. Me and Curtis made the mistake of paying for it and watching it. But you can maybe find it on the internet somewhere. Mike Malott quit in the ring, Curtis. He quit in the ring. He literally, legitimately quit. Won all but a minute of the fight, but in that last minute, he ran out of gas and He was like a minus 390 favorite against Neil Magny, who, again, the UFC set up this whole event so they could showcase their Canadian stars, and they gave them favorable matchups. And the Canadian men went 0-6, none worse than proper Mike Malott.
I've never seen anything like it. You know, he dominated literally the entire fight up until the last, 30 seconds?
I went back and watched it this morning, Curtis. It was about the 2-minute mark whenever it kind of started to turn, and he drowned.
He literally drowned. And I don't know that much about Neil Magny, the guy he was fighting, but I have a feeling that he's not like a finish artist, or at least he doesn't strike me as that at this stage of his career, maybe. But, you know, he had 12 seconds maybe that he needed to hold on to win that fight because he was dominating, and then he was just getting his face pounded in and lost it there at the end, and sent out a very sad, post-fight Twitter message to all the fans apologizing for his performance. It's not going to make me my money back, dude.
Not going to make me my money back. And I tell you, Curtis, I watched his post-fight little thing he said, and he kept saying, "Oh, I just wasn't good enough tonight." Mike Malott, I'm regret to inform you, you were good enough.
Absolutely.
But then you quit in front of your home fans, in front of your friends and family. And now, Curtis, let's just put a positive spin on this. That's what makes this journey fun. And for those of you who are watching and say, I don't care about UFC, why'd y'all start here? Just skip. You're maybe skipping forward to the timestamps. You're more than welcome to do that. We have a nice little highlighter there on the right side that'll let you know what topics we're talking about.
Exactly.
Beautiful. So we don't have timestamps, but we do have that. But what makes this fun and what made us fall in love with this sport is that's what makes this game fun, is they're setting these situations up. They set two guys in an octagon. They're trying to maybe promote one guy, maybe not. That's what makes it. Neil Magny was the spoiler last night, and he made Mike Malott quit in front of his friends and family in Canada. And that's something that Neil Magny doesn't have a ton of experience doing. I mean, he's been in a lot of fights. I think he has a record actually for the most decision wins in UFC history or something, or at least in the welterweight division.
That's wild.
So the fact that he was able to finish this up and coming youngster who's like entering his prime and should have been able to unseat him. But as crazy as it sounds, that wasn't even the worst disappointment of the night. I think the biggest disappointment of the night for me, Curtis, was, I hate to say it, we support women on this show, but Mayra Bueno Silva. They have the vacant bantamweight title on the line after the great Amanda Nunes retires last June.
Fighting a journeywoman.
Fighting a journeywoman who was 15-9 entering this fight. They set it up for this awesome Brazilian up-and-coming star, Mayra Bueno Silva. I convinced Curtis. We fell in love with this girl during fight week. We loved her. We loved seeing all the videos of her fun personality, and she's an exciting fighter to watch. Got all these submission wins and this great striking. And in the first round, she comes out and dominates. And similar to Mike Malott, just realized this fight is a little bit harder than I thought it was going to be, and I no longer want to be here, is kind of the decision she made.
It's so sad that you get into a championship bout, and she was gassed out. I mean, she was completely tired, which is weird because I didn't think conditioning would be an issue there. But, man, the last 30 seconds of that fight, it was pitiful to me because I think she knew she was done. But she just laid there on her back and basically was just getting leg kicked for the final 30. She gave up.
She was ending a championship fight, which, by the way, went to the scorecards. Now, we knew once they read the judges' scorecards that she was not going to win, but a fight that is still, if you will, up in the balance, to be hands behind your head, laid on your back, just kind of kicking your legs. It's a tough visual. Little bit better visual, though, Curtis, was the main event, which I would say, I could argue, carried this card and saved what was a little bit of a lackluster event total. I mean, top to bottom.
It was a fun fight.
The main event lived up to its bill. I mean, we expected Sean Strickland, the middleweight champion, who just came off of a huge upset win over one of my favorite fighters of all time, Israel Adesanya, one of the best middleweights, arguably the best middleweights of all time. Sean Strickland kind of became an unlikely UFC superstar. I mean, he's brash. He says all these inappropriate things. He loves posting about how much he loves guns and stuff like that. And he pushes people the wrong way, but he's become a little bit of a fan favorite here in the UFC because of his unlikely rise to stardom. He faced another guy who has had a weird rise to stardom and now the first South African champion of all time in the UFC, Dricus du Plessis, who beats Sean Strickland via split decision. Curtis, it was a hectic fight. Can you make sense of what you saw?
Yeah, I mean, I don't guess I have a problem with the decision. I mean, I thought it was a close fight. It was a good fight. You could have gone either way there, and I would have been okay with it. But I thought Dana White made a really good point in the aftermath, where if you're going to defeat the champion, like you have to take the belt from him. And I don't know. So from that standpoint, I'm kind of surprised that Strickland Didn't get that split decision there, but again, I think it's 3-2 one way or the other. So I don't have a huge problem with it, but I don't know, man. It was I guess it was about what I expected it to be, aside from I didn't expect it to go the distance. That was what was kind of the stunning thing to me. Like, I thought somebody was going to get dropped or finish there, especially with Dreikus. I mean, that was his first 5-round fight. I mean, he hasn't done this before, and he looked like the fresher fighter, honestly, to me in that one. So, hey, whatever, man. You got a championship fight. One guy's, his entire face is swollen up. He can't see out of either one of his eyes. The other one's bleeding from like every orifice on his head.
Oh,
so that's what you're looking for in a championship fight. And if somebody's not gonna get knocked out, then at least it's a war. They did what does Strickland call it? The man dance. They did the man dance. He lost. I thought he handled it well.
Handled it really well, I would say. And I mean, that's the guy in Sean Strickland who I would not say handles a lot of things well, especially when a microphone is in his face.
Exactly.
By the way, before we move on, I just want to refresh some folks. There's some people that are new to this. Maybe this whole thing, maybe this is the first thing you've ever heard about USC. So who knows? Maybe this will intrigue you. Just to recap how chaotic this middleweight division has been in the UFC. Wow. You have Israel Adesanya, who, again, one of the all-time greats. This is kind of this iconic champion who had been dominating this era. He loses his belt to Alex Pereira, who he had previous history with, who is now the UFC's light heavyweight champion, who has become an unlikely star. But then he wins his belt back, Israel Adesanya, and he kind of gets back to what he's doing. And he was supposed to fight Dricus du Plessis. And Israel's from Nigeria. Du Plessis is a white man from South Africa. There was a lot of comments over who's the real African champion of the UFC. I'm not going to dive into that topic too much. Let's watch what we say here. But there was some intensity there. And when Dricus du Plessis knocked out Robert Whittaker back in July, everyone thought that was the next fight. And they get him in the octagon. They're shouting the N-word at each. I should clarify. Israel Adesanya shouted the N-word towards the white man. There was not a white South African guy yelling the N-word. But it looked like that was kind of the fight to make, and it was going to be awesome. And then all of a sudden, Dricus du Plessis says he has an injury, so he has to not do the fight. And Sean Strickland steps in and becomes this superstar. And then Israel Adesanya, the greatest middleweight of all time, is kind of left out of this picture. And now he's probably going to enter back here. But that's kind of what makes this UFC fun, is that it's not a direct meritocracy. It's not a structured tournament. It's just kind of, what fights do we want? What two men do we want to see get in an octagon and fight each other? Yeah. And I'll tell you, Curtis, right now, I want to watch Dricus du Plessis and Israel Adesanya get in that octagon. Wouldn't hate watching Sean Strickland and get a rematch. I know some people have been kind of calling for that. This division is in a good spot right now, and I kind of like the way it's trending. Which it's been a wild ride, but I'm interested for that. We will cover that and all more. Got a lot of good UFC fights coming up soon, so I'm sure the 6-pack we'll be diving into it a little bit. Some much better cards. I think coming up real soon. So definitely looking forward to that. And I kind of agree. I don't think I'd have a problem with a rematch, but Izzy Dricus, that might be pretty fun. So we got to put asses in seats, Curtis. That's right. And Israel Adesanya puts asses in seats. That's 100%. Frankly, all these guys, Sean Strickland. I mean, you saw that crowd last night. If there was one silver lining, is that crowd was unreal last night. You could hear him the whole time. Yeah, for sure. All right, we're one beer down. We're moving on to the second. I need to rant for a minute about crowds, college basketball. Crowds. I should have segued there when I was talking about crowds. It's okay. Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, you need asses in seats, and there's a lot of them in college basketball. I think everybody loves a good court storm, right? I mean, did you see? It was West Virginia yesterday. They beat Kansas. They stormed the floor. Country Roads is playing, over the loudspeakers. I mean, that's awesome. Do you have any problem just with just court storming in general? Do you think there's too much of it? Do you think there needs to be like parameters, like, it better be an undefeated team or a number one team or a rival, or are you just cool with it? Like, before I go too deep, I need to know where you stand on court storming. So just in a nutshell, I don't have a problem with it, but I do think context matters a little bit. And so we've talked about this a little bit off air, you and I, and I feel like I've said this on other times, like you can storm the court. For instance, when Arkansas beat Duke, you beat Duke in basketball at your home court. That's something that you're maybe only going to do. If you're lucky, you can do that 3 times in your program's history or whatever it is. Arkansas, there's a realistic chance they never do that again. I mean, it's just the way it works out. You don't get to see. It's not like Duke comes into town every year. Same with Arkansas beating number 1 Auburn. Again, Auburn is not some iconic program, but doing something that you don't have a chance to do all the time, just some moment you can kind of and it's an unwritten thing here, but sometimes you can just tell when the moment is there. You can tell it feels like a moment big enough for it. Arkansas beating Texas at home in football, like that. I know that's not basketball. It's a little bit different, but I think there's always moments for it. And so like West Virginia beating Kansas at home, I don't have a problem with it. I think the only slippery slope is when you start doing it too often, because one, there's fines that come in, but
Yeah.
And so I'm not one of those weirdos on the internet who like gets really upset when other fan bases do it. And I think it's weird when other fan bases do it, because it's like if your team storms the court, you're not gonna have a problem with it, you know. So it's like I think it's dumb when they do that. But big picture, I think I'm good.
Yeah, I think, you know, especially I think about that Duke game and like you know, all the Razorback fans, like the students were camping out for 2 days in the cold before the game, like just to have that opportunity and that experience, dude, like if you've got the opportunity, like go for it, man. Storm the court, like live that moment. I think that's awesome. You know, it comes with some risk. Like I think earlier on Sunday, Caitlin Clark, everybody knows the baller from Iowa. She could probably play in the NBA, much less the WNBA. But they lost. I think they were at, maybe it was Ohio State. So Ohio State storms the floor, and then she was trying to run off of the floor and get back to the locker room. She had a collision with another fan. Luckily, she was okay. But like, there's some risk that comes with that. So, you know, I get it, but I love me a good court storm. But my rant is that you got to keep that same energy when the roles are reversed, right? And so we had the whole thing with Rodney Terry. You know, that's the Texas head coach, and he threw a fit after UCF beat him at home, and they were all throwing the horns down at the crowd and everybody else, and he called it classless and everything like that. But then all of a sudden, they go out there on Saturday, Texas does, and they hit a buzzer beater to knock off Baylor. And then he feels compelled to go back into the press conference and apologize for those things. Like you get the hype of your home crowd as opposed to them being, you know, disappointed in you and pissed off at you. And then you feel a little bit different. So it strikes me as like some entitlement, and he was salty after a loss. So like, that's one thing. Like I'm sure that the Texas student section was giving it to UCF the entire game. And so they responded by throwing the horns down at him. Like, whatever, I'm okay with that. It just came across as salty. Well, on Saturday night, Pitt goes on the road to Duke, and Duke's down a couple players, but it's still Duke. Look, man, like they call them the Cameron Crazies for a reason. Like they're nuts, man. And student sections, look, they say and do just some wild things to get into the head of opponents. I think it's part of what makes college sports great and so unique. But then don't get all offended and butthurt when you lose at home. And then, you know, Pitt's Blake Henson is standing on top of a table at press row, taunting the Cameron Crazies. Right. And then all of a sudden you want to, you know, you don't want to start a brawl or anything like that. But in my opinion, that kind of stuff is just fair game, because if you're going to be standing right over the top of me and calling me all kinds of names, and you do research, you know who my girlfriend is and my mom and everything else, you're throwing all that stuff out there. That's fine. But then if I get the best of you, then I get to stand on top of the table at press row and, you know, give you the business right back. I just think that energy's got to be reciprocal. Where do you stand on that? Because I feel like this week we've had a couple instances where players are reacting to the fans who react to them the entire game. But it's almost like, you know, it's just not a fair situation or whatever. I don't get it.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. And I want to clarify before we get too deep into the weeds here. We're all for safety. Anything,
sure.
And like there's lines in this business and in life where you just can't cross. We can talk about where those lines are. I think anything physical, no
Absolutely.
Contact. And so when it comes to court storming, when it comes to fans and players interaction, players interacting with fans, obviously malice of the palace, that's off guard. We're saying that is bad. Just in case anyone was wondering, I think that stuff's bad.
Don't
I think
do
that assaulting people is bad. So if you want to call me out, I got that out in front. I said that at the beginning.
We're on the record.
I do think like it's fascinating where these players. I remember Russell Westbrook a few years ago getting a fan ejected, and I remember thinking about that. Like, and look, I love Russell Westbrook. I defend him at all costs, but I remember thinking like, man, what does someone have to say before it really is like over the line? And so again, as long as you're not shouting obscenities and saying crazy stuff, and look. You mentioned the stuff like having the research on your girlfriend. I think that stuff's in bounds. I think that stuff is fine. You know, if you're in the hog pen and the left fielder it has a girlfriend named whatever, chirp them. You know, say that kind of stuff. I'm all for that as long as you're not saying stuff inappropriate. You know, don't cross those lines.
Sure.
And again, we can. That's a gray area because it's like what's inappropriate to say. But I just think big picture, yeah. I think players, it's part of it. Like I'm not saying players should just have to sit there and eat it, and no matter what, they should just listen to whatever, and they should just let everything fly. But I do think it's like when you're a player and you react negatively, like that's the whole goal of those fan bases. And so look, as crazy as it sounds, and this is where I had to make my important clarification. I'm not saying you have to let everything fly and there can't be repercussions to stuff, but it's like, I think just being cool and sitting there and making nice plays in the game to counteract fans screaming crazy stuff at you. I think that's way cooler. And like, how much cooler is it, Curtis, when you're in the student section at a basketball game and you're yelling at the opposing player and you're boo, and he hits a dagger three. Like that the reason that moment is so cool is because that's how you get back at the fans. That's how you shut them up. Like that's how you do it. Like that's what every athlete, like that's what you should be striving for. And so it's like, again, I'm not saying that like, hey, we can solve every problem with our on-court play here, but I'm saying like that's kind of how the policing is supposed to go. And look, there's security guards, there's police officers at games, like there's people who conduct it and decide where those lines are being crossed.
Like understand the competitive nature of the game, and but also understand that it is just a game. Like if somebody hits that dagger three and then they turn around to a student section and give them the three goggles, or give them the shh or whatever, or if they dunk on a guy and you turn to the student section and do the Jalen Graham too small, I don't care. Like I'm fine with that. I think that's great. Did Henson for Pitt? Should he have gotten on, the top of the table and started, taunting the Cameron Crazies? Yeah, maybe not, but I thought it was funny. I thought it was awesome.
If he had started crossing the line and tried to jump into the crowd, he would have been reprimanded.
Exactly.
So it's like,
exactly. And so I just keep that same energy. Like I feel like there's got to be some bit of reciprocation that's acceptable. And I don't think it's that big of a deal. I was more bothered, I think, by the way Rodney Terry reacted to the horns down thing. That's just stupid. At least in the Duke situation, like, I don't know, like I'm sure the Cameron Crazies were sauced up and the students were probably, hammered and ticked off that their team just lost. Now you got this dude, taunting you after the game. So I could see it from that standpoint, but the horns down, get over it, man. It's a hand gesture. Move on. Whatever. We're 2 beers deep. Third one, Andrew, man. I was so excited yesterday before the game, for the South Carolina game. It was announced on the big board at Bud Walton Arena that College Game Day finally coming to Fayetteville.
Great.
Awesome. It's huge for the program. It's long overdue. I can't help but like roll my eyes at the number of people who are in my mentions who really have pissed and moaned forever about not having College Game Day in Fayetteville. And those exact same people feel compelled to continue to piss and moan now because they're coming like when the team is struggling. So I say that, but at the same time, guys, I hear you. I get it, because here comes a loaded Kentucky team that everybody in the country has fallen in love with just in time to catch like Arkansas, maybe at its rock bottom under Musselman, coming to town. It's going to be on the biggest of stages. Like, how do you feel about this emotionally? Because it's awesome. It's huge for the program. It's big for the brand, but damn, man, like now we're doing this. I don't know.
Well, and I'll tell you, Curtis, those people that are mad about ESPN coming when Arkansas is bad, all you had to do was beat South Carolina. Even if you would say Arkansas had lost to Ole Miss on Wednesday, but they had beaten South Carolina by 7, or so they just done a normal thing, even beat them by 3. They don't even cover the spread. They just win by 3. If they lose to Ole Miss, it's still a massive game, that Kentucky game. One, because Arkansas is still kind of in that bubble talk. They need one more big resume win. Like, one, Kentucky at home is always going to, for lack of a better term, put asses in seats, which we have not seen a lot. The seats have been assless lately. But I will say that like Kentucky's always going to bring that excitement. And so I think that part is part of the decision of just obviously Arkansas and Kentucky is a safe bet to be a good atmosphere. And frankly, even if Arkansas gets hammered against Ole Miss, I think there's still going to be a decent crowd there. Again, like the person you should be mad about is your own team.
Exactly.
They stink. It's not ESPN's fault that they stink. They tried to set them up for a nice little slot. And again, if Arkansas just beaten South Carolina, then this would be a lot more fun to do. But it's going to be a little bit bleak there, especially if they get hammered against Ole Miss.
Right. And, I think look, you can't trust the team right now to go out there and play hard or play well or whatever. But, as a fan base, like you can control the perception of Bud Walton Arena in Fayetteville. So show up, show out, get crazy and make it, a worthwhile experience for College Game Day. And they'll be more compelled to come back maybe in future seasons when this team doesn't stink, and they're playing at the level that we've grown accustomed to seeing them play under Muss. It would be cool if that happened at some point this season, but yeah, brother, I don't know. Anyway, we're halfway through our 6-pack. Let's move on. Playoffs, NFL, a lot going on. What do you got? I mean, like, what has stood out to you from this?
Before we even talk about the playoffs, we have to discuss the fact that we are recording this on a Sunday night, meaning that the NFL playoff games are not finished. So if you're coming in here, if there was an awesome Bills Chiefs game that was an instant classic,
we haven't seen it yet.
We'll
be seeing that at Flyway.
Yeah.
So maybe some of you will have already seen us there, and that happened, but it hasn't happened yet.
Also, Dave Van Horn, if you're listening, we're going to Flyway hoping to see you. So if we did not see you there, we saw you for the last Chiefs game. We're hoping we can, we're hoping to link back up, but We'll get you to try some different things. But so that there's the 2 games that are happening today. Like the Lions, it appears they're going to pull out this game against the Buccaneers. They're up 24-17 as we speak. There's about 11 minutes left.
I need that 6.5 cover.
Well, so as of right now, you're good, and the Lions have the ball. So I'm not going to update this audience listening that is to this on Monday morning. But I will say, Curtis, I'm a Texans fan.
You are.
I am also a Lamar Jackson fan.
You are.
And now, my pro sports teams are a little bit different because when I was a kid growing up, like Arkansas was my team. Like I lived and died. I cried if they lost. Like I begged my mom to not send me to school if they lost. Like I lived and died with them. And my pro teams are a lot more casual viewing. So I want to point that out right away, that the Texans are not something that I like go to sleep thinking about. I cheer for the Texans. I like to consume the product. I support the team. I have jerseys. I actually even have a Deshaun Watson jersey, unfortunately. But yeah, it's not like something. So when I say this, I don't want people to think I'm crazy. I wanted the Texans to lose yesterday, Curtis. And the reason I wanted them to lose is, again, I love Lamar Jackson. I've been a Lamar defender since his freshman year at Louisville. Loved the guy. I thought it was crazy that he was nitpicked as a college quarterback. I think it's crazy that he was nitpicked in the draft process. I can't believe 4 quarterbacks were drafted above him, one of which being Baker Mayfield, who, no disrespect, we talked about Baker on the program. We like Baker, but there's just no planet in no context in which Baker Mayfield is better at football than Lamar Jackson. There's not one attribute he has that is, it just doesn't, like the fact that, and I mean, I don't want to get into the weeds of why these things happen, but I think Lamar is a very important quarterback for black quarterbacks in the NFL. I think his success is kind of going to move them forward a little bit. And hey, I think you've already seen that play out where some of these quarterbacks, like for instance, it's even helped in a negative regard for guys like Trey Lance, who have been drafted high, Justin Fields, or whoever it is, because NFL teams can now believe that you can build a franchise, because clearly you can. The Ravens are the best team in the NFL. So it was really good. It would have hurt my soul if Lamar had gotten bounced as a 1 seed. After the year he's had, he might win his second MVP. Like, just the journey he's been on. He's been one of the most fun athletes in the world since he came on the scene. I mean, even in high school, you know that video, Curtis, of him where he's juking the guy and he like stops on a dime and he like kind of waltzes. Like, he's been making these crazy highlights since he was in high school. He's just an awesome athlete. All of his teammates love him. The whole fan base is behind him. Like, it would be cool if he won the Super Bowl. And so that supersedes everything for me this year. And that's what I'm hoping happens. The 49ers beat the Packers. Not that cool, but we did have a Fayetteville guy. We had an Arkansan, a true Fayetteville guy, brother of Jacoby Criswell. Dre Greenlaw had a huge night last night. 2 interceptions. And Curtis, did you happen to see his last interception?
I did. And I just want to say to Dre, just a personal thank you for your efforts, because I think based on the fact that you got that interception and felt compelled to try to get up and maybe take that thing to the house for a pick 6, that tells me that you might have understood that kind of looking for the Niners minus 9.5 there. Look, I don't want to throw out any crazy accusations, but I feel like that might have been the case. And if so, damn it, you could have broken another tackle or 2 and got in the end zone, but I appreciate the effort. In the end, Niners win by 3. And so I lost a little bit of money there, but hey, shout out to the former Hog. I mean, that was awesome. Hell of a game. A couple picks there, and yeah, that game sealer at the end was that was pretty sweet, man. Great moment. Very cool.
Dre, just in case, in the off chance, I don't want to make a series, because I mean, we have seen an NFL player be suspended for an entire year for betting on his own game. So
we're kidding.
Dre's a stand-up guy. He's a great former Hog. We know that that's not what was happening. He was just trying to make a play for his team, and he didn't care about the clock. He just wanted to score. But you know what? It brings me back to my point. I want to bring back Mike Malott to the conversation, the Canadian who screwed us last night. You don't have to win every bet. We lose bets every day. Losing a bet doesn't hurt my feelings. I can lose hundreds of dollars without even batting an eye. It's when I know that you didn't try and you didn't care And that's what Mike Malott did when he quit in that octagon with 15 seconds on the clock against Neil freaking Magny.
That's right.
But Dre Greenlaw, to our point, that shows me you want to cover that spread. And all I want is for you to try.
Yeah.
So the coaches
he gets an A for effort.
The coaches that punt on 4th down whenever you're down by 20 and you're like, we don't want to make it any worse. We'll just punt. You're not a fan of. We're not messing with you. We're messing with the Dre Greenlaws who are going to try to cover that spread at all costs, even to the detriment of their team almost. But seriously, huge game for Dre. I mean, 2 interceptions in the biggest game of your life. He's been a huge part of this 49ers run, and it's been really fun to watch because he did not get to have a ton of team success at Arkansas. So I'm glad that he's finally getting his due. And really, I mean, he's had an awesome career. So it's been fun to watch.
Yeah, no, it's been awesome. We're cruising right along here, Andrew. What do you know about Harvard Westlake basketball?
I don't know much about Harvard Westlake basketball, Curtis, but I do recognize that name, which tells me that must be a pretty notable school or an academy or prep school or something. Because there's only like 9 high schools that I know outside of ones,
They are notable out in California. I mean, they're arguably the best high school team in the country this year. I think they rolled all the way up to like number 3 in the nation. That's not that interesting. In fact, they've lost back-to-back games over the course of the last week.
Bums.
That's not the story. The story, though, is who beat them. Okay. And so this might make you feel kind of old, but it's also really cool. So they lost to Notre Dame on Wednesday, not Notre Dame, the Fighting Irish, but Notre Dame, the prep school, high school, whatever out in California. Who cares? Their star player goes by the name of Mercy Miller. That's the son of Master P. Everybody know who Master P is? Okay. And so this dude scored 29 of Notre Dame's 59 points in the win. Mercy Miller is a hooper, man. Hooper, 4-star player at 24/7 Sports. He's committed to Houston and Kelvin Sampson. This dude
Master P's a huge Houston guy, right? That's pretty cool.
And he had a 68-point game earlier in the year. I don't care who you're playing against. 68 points is a lot of points, especially in high. I mean, they play 8-minute quarters in high school. And that's crazy. That's absolutely absurd. So I thought that was cool. It made me feel old because I kind of grew up on Master P. For those of you who don't know who he is, he's a rap hip hop legend, the founder of No Limit Records. Did you know Master P was a hooper?
I didn't, but I mean, how tall is Master P?
I don't know.
I feel like I've seen him be. He's pretty tall, I think. So I think he's got to be.
He's got to be pretty tall because apparently, he nearly made it in the NBA, dude. Like really? He was on the preseason roster back in the 90s, on the preseason rosters for the Raptors and the Hornets. Like he almost broke into the league, and
he's like LiAngelo Ball level good.
He might be LiAngelo Ball level good, man.
Well, you know who else? There's nothing cooler than just like someone famous's son doing something.
I know,
like that's going to be cool no matter what. It's like, oh hey, that's so like Frank Gore Jr. We all know about Southern Miss's running back that was there for 7 years.
Yes,
he's Frank Gore Jr. It's like there's nothing cooler than his son.
Oh, it's so awesome, and it's I think it's really cool when it's maybe not even a former NBA player or whatever.
Yeah, like this is cool.
Master P's kid, man, that's crazy, and so you see things like that, and they can get you pretty excited. But what makes me feel old, at least, is like there are so many, former players' sons, like guys I grew up on, and guys I feel like in my adulthood that I've watched, in the NBA. Jermaine O'Neal Jr.'s kid is going to visit Arkansas. Too. Yeah, Kenyon Martin, Carmelo Anthony, Bronny James. Shout out to him for jumping and hitting his head on that sign.
Speaking of notable sons.
Yeah. But to go back to what we were talking about with Harvard Westlake, okay, like I said, they lost back-to-back games this week after being so good, lost to Mercy Miller. But then they lost to Sierra Canyon, where Justin Pippen, the son of Scottie Pippen, the brother of Scottie Jr., Vanderbilt legend.
Who are, by the way, spelled differently. Scottie and Scottie Pippen Jr. are spelled differently. I think the younger Scottie is Scott Y.
Exactly. And
Unreal.
So, Justin Pippen, the youngest of the Pippen sons, he went for 21 points in that game. He's a 3-star prospect. Kind of cool, man. Hey, he's teammates with Arkansas signee Isaiah Elohim, by the way.
Yeah.
But man, you got Master P's kid, you got Scottie Pippen's youngest kid, just taking down some of the best high school programs in the country. No big deal.
That's pretty cool. We were talking about Mac McClung the other day. I'm pretty sure Mac McClung is Riff Raff's cousin.
Really?
At least I heard that on Twitter a long time ago. I think they might be one of those. They're like fake cousins, but I think they're like Riff Raff knew Mac McClung before he became a viral sensation on the internet, which is always cool.
If it's on Twitter, then I have no reason not to believe it. So
Well,
I'm just going to
exactly.
assume that it's true.
You don't lie there, especially now that we got Elon Musk running the joint. I mean, running X, I should say. You remember when Snoop Dogg's son played football for a little bit, but then he quit. I think he was committed to UCLA, and then he ended up going to like acting school.
Yeah.
But
dang,
that must
crazy.
be well. That's all. That must be also nice as an athlete who has a very famous father or mother to just be like, I have that to fall back on. If I end up not being good at basketball, at least I can just go to film school.
Yeah,
you know,
of course. All right, we got one beer left in the 6-pack, and again, this isn't always going to be about sports. It can be about anything. And another timely reminder: if you got anything cool, slide in those DMs on Twitter and let us know. We'll talk about weird stuff. We don't care.
We're about to do it right now. I mean,
we are about to do it right now.
What a topic for our first non-sports one.
Yeah. If you're watching along here at the final leg of the 6-pack, you see what unreasonably large traffic signs. What are we talking about, Andrew? Do you remember when we were driving to the BOK Center for Oklahoma Arkansas basketball in December, and we were coming into Tulsa? They had the big Hard Rock Casino, and they had just that huge, like, obnoxious video board that had different messages popping up and everything like that. And you're like, man, that's distracting. And I wonder if you can do that. Like, should there be regulation against it? Is it illegal? I don't understand. Do you recall that?
I recall it vividly, and you know why, Curtis? I do a thing where I like to test out bits every now and then.
Okay.
I didn't know that I was going to, at the time that we were doing that, I did not know that I was going to have this platform and be able to share these important stories. But, you know, I had that exact moment with my beautiful girlfriend, Hillary. We were driving to Tulsa, I guess it was a year ago, and I said the same thing where I was like, man, that video board is like, and it's not just that it's large and it's a video, it's moving too. Like, they're sort of playing videos across it, and it was distracting me as I was driving. I didn't run off the road and kill myself, but I was like, man, like that, I feel like that's an issue where if like you're really getting your eyes locked on that thing, like I could catch myself looking over and I was like, that just seems weird. She disagreed completely. She was like, no. I was like, I wonder if, I was like, I bet there's a law. She was like, no. She shot it down completely. So I had to run it back whenever I was with you in Tulsa. And I saw the same thing because I had the same thought. And I was like, you know, I wonder if Curtis, and you agreed, and I remember feeling good.
Yeah.
So yes, I do remember it vividly.
Okay. Well, then you'll be happy to know, and you can share this with Hillary. I was reading a story randomly this morning. So not necessarily like those big video boards or whatever, but a federal agency is literally trying to outlaw and regulate like those stupid messages you see on the highway. So like they try to be clever. It's like, hocus pocus. Yeah. Click it or ticket. Hocus pocus. Drive with focus. Hands on the wheel and not your Happy Meal. Like, you know, all those stupid little things. The argument from these folks is like, you know, that by trying to draw the attention of drivers to get your message across, like you're doing exactly what you're trying to avoid, which is distracting drivers by making them read, making them think, taking their attention off of the road. So it's funny because actually the state of Arizona, I think it was their governor, was like literally encouraging people to come up with these weird slogans. Like you could submit them, and then like if it got picked, like they would be put on, you know, whatever signs above the highway. And now there's like a federal agency is trying to shut that down because it's too distracting to drivers to give them a message to, you know, don't drink and drive or buckle your seatbelt or pay attention or whatever.
Well, especially when it's like the message is a little bit, if it's the stuff's going out, the video board, or it's kind of flashing, or it's maybe it's a banner that's going across, like,
right.
I mean, sometimes you're struggling trying to read it. And so you're sitting there staring at it. Like, again, like, I think you should keep your eyes on the road the best you can. But I thought it was crazy. So I feel so vindicated to hear this.
I'm glad.
But yeah, it is also interesting. But I think it's also funny. Like, I'm all about breaking down the barriers. You know, like you'll see a sign up at a place and it'll be like, no. And it has something so random that you're like, something specific had to have happened.
Yeah.
Where it's like, no skiing off the top of the roof here, you know, like no, no bungee jumping or like something crazy, or like something had to have happened for them to have put that sign up. That's a bit I stole from How I Met Your Mother. But I think about that where I'm like, it takes one person to like get in a huge wreck and cite that as the reason. I wonder if that's what happened, is someone just tragically got distracted by the click it or ticket sign and then cited that as their reason and then made him think. I wonder if not, then maybe someone, you know, I'm not going to finish that thought. I'm just going to say that, you know, sometimes bad things happen and good things come from it, is where I'm going to cycle back to.
Yeah. Well, at the very least, somebody, you know, probably was looking for a reason to sue about something. And that's what they found there. So like,
well, we just gave someone an excuse if you do.
These signs are distracting me while I was driving. I did something stupid and I'm going to blame it on that. So yeah, man, there we go. We're a 6-pack down. We're a 6-pack down,
Mhm.
and I feel like we need to get out of here and go actually get a 6-pack down over a flyweight. What do you think?
That's what I think. Which again, we've done the same thing where we're like citing stuff happening on Sunday night.
That's right.
As people listen to this on Monday, but that's what we're gonna do here. But yeah, I this was fun, and look, I look forward to doing this. And look, guys, if y'all were into this, or if you think, hey, I'd love to hear y'all talk about something else, again, let us know. We just happen to be the Monday after a UFC event, and as weirdos, that's what we want to talk about. But
Yes.
it's not going to be UFC all the time. It's not going to be football all the time. You know, it's whatever it is. Curtis and I want to cover the real world,
That's right.
and that's what we're doing here.
We want to cover
know?
the real world. And yeah, so also in addition to sending that stuff over and giving us some ideas to chat on, the plan is like once we get settled in and get rolling here, like we're gonna do this live. And so we'll have our topics, but then it's an opportunity for us to also like get in the chat and make it interactive and see what kind of weird stuff is out there. So a lot going on. We're just going to continue to grow and get more interactive, and we're excited about it. But hey, the first episode of the Natty Sports 6-pack, it is in the books. It's been Curtis Wilkerson, Andrew Ellis. Really appreciate everybody for checking it out. Really appreciate everybody for following along with us over at Natty State Sports. Getting a little bit better every day. We continue to grow. We're excited about the future and everything we got going on.